When you're traveling at a significant fraction of the speed of sound, things can happen very quickly. A small dot on your screen can go to a full-sized airliner in mere milliseconds. If you're not paying attention, the first sign of trouble will be the last. This is exactly what happened above the skies of Senegal on the 5th of September 2015. But before we get into the meat of the story, please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content that I make. Senegal Airlines Flight 071 is a 737-200 that's flying from Dakar, Senegal to Malabo in Equatorial Guinea. The 737 is ferrying 104 passengers today. The plane has 8 crew members on board. Flight 071 was cruising at 35,000 feet on its way to Malabo. The crew of Senegal Airlines Flight 071 were just approaching the Tambacounda VOR. But unknown to them, another plane, a Hawker Siddeley 125, operated by Senegal Air, was approaching Tambacounda VOR from the other direction. The Hawker Siddeley was an air ambulance for Senegal Air and had 7 people on board. Right now, the seeds of disaster have been sown. The area that they were flying in had no radar coverage. Planes had to see and avoid. If your airspace has radar coverage, you have an additional set of eyeballs looking over you and therefore another layer of safety. But today, unfortunately, that wasn't the case. The planes continued towards each other at 35,000 feet in opposite directions. The controllers warned neither plane about traffic in the area. In an ideal situation, this is where a plane's TCAS system should come into play. TCAS, or Traffic Collision Avoidance System, is a system that all modern commercial airlines have. This system alerts pilots to dangerous traffic conflicts, and a computerized voice gives them actions to prevent an accident. But today, no such alarm sounded. The accident was inevitable at this point. The 737 and the Hawker Siddeley merged. They struck each other in such a way that the winglet of the 737 grazed the fuselage of the Hawker Siddeley. This showed up as an uncommanded yaw on the 737's autopilot, and the autopilot then promptly corrected. The 737 lost more than a meter of its right winglet, but the plane was still airborne. The pilots of the 737 decided to skip their stopover and continue straight to Malabo. The 737 landed without further incident. The Hawker Siddeley seemed to have made it out in one piece as well. The plane was stable and on a constant heading. It didn't seem like it was losing altitude, but air traffic controllers could not get the crew to respond, and the plane, for all intents and purposes, was a ghost plane. The plane was flying, but no one on board was conscious enough to take control of the plane, and it was on autopilot. ATC never heard from Senegal Air again. This is not the first time that this has happened. Helios Flight 522 and Learjet 35 in 1999. In both cases, cabin pressurization had failed, which incapacitated the crews. It is believed that the winglet of the 737 caused the cabin of the Hawker Siddeley to depressurize. At the altitude that they were flying at, the crew and the passengers would have been incapacitated in minutes. The Hawker Siddeley kept on flying for an hour, eventually overflying its destination. The plane crashed into the Atlantic Ocean due to fuel starvation. The wreckage was never recovered, so we can only speculate on what might have gone on in the cockpit of the Hawker Siddeley before the collision. One of these planes were not supposed to be where they were. One of the crews messed up. Listening back to the air traffic control tapes, they found that Senegal 071 was cleared to 35,000 feet and the Hawker Siddeley was assigned to 34,000 feet, so the Senegal airplane was 1,000 feet above their assigned altitude. ATC records further showed that the crew of the Hawker Siddeley had agreed to maintain 34,000 feet. They knew they were supposed to be at 34,000 feet, but they ended up at 35,000 feet. A look into the history of the plane finds an interesting clue. The data that the pilot was seeing and the data transmitted by the transponder differed by 1,000 feet. This means that when the pilot thought he was at 34,000 feet, he might have actually been at 35,000 feet. On 3 separate occasions, the plane was found to be in violation of the airspace that it had been assigned, including once earlier that day. In one instance, the plane was cleared to flight level 320, but the plane was detected at flight level 310. The same happened 2 more times. We may never know if this is really what happened, as the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder of the Hawker Siddeley were never recovered.